What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Another video means another dopamine high because I had to buy something that feels something, and today we're back at it with another review. For today's review, we are taking a look at 1000 Toys Carter. This is the second 1000 Toys Noble Team member for the Noble Team line, and today I will be covering the exclusive edition of this figure. And with this being the second release of the Noble Team line, the first release was with Noble 6, and I do have a review up on the channel if you want to go check that out at any time. And the next release after Carter will be June, and you bet your sweet Bippy I will be covering him. I will be covering all of the Noble Team members, so please pray for my wallet. And speaking of wallets, at any point during or after the video you realize you want to pick up this figure for yourself and kill your wallet alongside with me, you can pick up this figure from a variety of sites. Now I will say availability may vary. I know with Noble 6 none of the sites that I linked had him available, but fortunately for Carter it seems like some sites do have him in stock still. But I will put all the options where you can get Carter even if it isn't available, because who knows, availability may change at some point in time. Starting off for $200 off of the 1000 Toys website, $180 off of Amazon and Sideshow collectibles, and then we have $179.99 on Entertainment Earth and the Big Bad Toy Store. Again, links will be in the description of the video if you do want to pick up any of these figures for yourself. And if you are deterred by the price of this figure, I don't blame you at all. There's no shame in it. These are some pricey ass figures, and I think that's everything I have for introductions to this figure, so let's start taking a look at this bad boy. And starting off with the packaging, and we got Carter on the front with the title and the exclusive edition sticker. Not really much going on with the packaging, especially when we get to the other sides. Like, we just have the Halo Reach logo here, and then on the back we just have a bunch of mumbo jumbo and the Xbox and 343 Industries logo. And on the side we got nothing really going on as well besides the Reach logo, so not the most interesting packaging in the world, but it is what it is. And when we open up the packaging, it looks like everything that should be here is here, so that's good to see. And we are also given an instruction manual for this figure. It just goes over all the different features and accessories and how to use them properly with this figure, so it's a neat little thing for those who can't exactly get this figure down, which I'm gonna not think of an insult because I'm not intelligent. And on the back we do have an overview of everything that is included. And right out of the box, when it comes to Carter's visuals, I think 1000 Toys did an amazing job, which is to be expected from this company. Just like with Noble 6 and most likely with the upcoming future releases of Noble Team, 1000 Toys was able to get as many little details as possible. And a few parts of the figure that come to mind are Carter's comm piece and brim on his helmet, the pouch and tactical equipment on his chest, the base of the commando shoulder piece, tactical pad on his wrist, and the pouch on his belt. And of course these examples don't take away from the more common details such as the line work, plating, and layering of Carter's armor and undersuit. As for Carter's paintwork, just like with Noble 6 and most likely with the rest of Noble Team, 1000 Toys went for that factory new look, but at the same time they didn't. And what I mean by that is, unlike Noble 6, there is some signs of usage and fading on Carter's armor. This is mostly wherever there's white paint, and on the thighs there is some fading with the blue, but after that the armor does look pretty clean. So maybe it isn't that factory new look that I'm trying to describe, but more so that Carter put his armor through the wash. And this might be more of a nitpick, but the screens on Carter's walkie and tactical pad aren't blue, whereas in game they are. It's not the end of the world, but if 1000 Toys went through the effort of painting the lights on Carter's armor, do you think they would also cover the screens of his equipment? So overall, I do enjoy what 1000 Toys have done visually for Carter. I appreciate the small amount of grit that they have given his armor, and my only issue is a nitpick at worst. And we could sit here forever and go back and forth discussing the figure, whether it should be dirtier due to the wear and tear being one of the defining features of Halo Reach's art style, but I don't think it's that deep, honestly. And starting off with the articulation in the head area, we can rotate the head 360 degrees. Then Carter can bring his head up and down a good amount. And the same could be said about the range when Carter sways his head side to side. And when we take all that range and articulation, we can move the head in a spherical range of motion. And there is some articulation in Carter's neck. We can get some decent range having it sway back and forth, and we can get some side to side action as well. And we can even move the neck in a spherical range of motion, which is really nice to see. And moving over to the arms, and we can actually adjust Carter's shoulder armor, which I really like. It allows us to, move the armor accordingly to how we adjust his arms, so they aren't 100% in the way if we wanted to move his arms where they normally would. But then we can rotate the arms up and over 360 degrees. But then we can bring the arms up a decent amount. If we do flip the arms over, they could be brought up more, as seen with rotating the arms up and over 360 degrees. And we can open up Carter's arm a decent amount, and we can actually adjust the shoulder here so we can have him extend his arm out further or bring it back even more. And then we can rotate the elbow down 360 degrees. And then we can get this big elbow bend that goes way past the 90-degree mark, so it's really good in my book. And then finally, we can rotate the hands 360 degrees and bend the wrist however we please. And taking it over to the torso, we can't rotate the torso 360 degrees, but we are still granted plenty of range. And then we can bring the torso back and forth a good amount. And the same can be said about the range when we sway the torso side to side. And if we take all that range and articulation, we can move the torso in a spherical range of motion. And actually, the armor around his waist can move in accordance to the torso or leg, so it doesn't get in the way of those parts of Carter's body, which is the perfect transition to the legs. And we can rotate the legs up and over 360 degrees. And then we can get some really good splittage out of Carter. By no means is it a full split, but it's still plenty to work with. And we can actually pivot the thigh a little bit, which is really nice. It allows for more balancing and posing options for Carter. And then as for the knee bend, we get some really good range here for Carter. And then we can rotate the boot 360 degrees and bend the ankle however we please. And then we can actually bring the toe of the boot up and down as well, and the armor on the boot does adjust to that, which is really nice to see. Kicking off this segment with the swappable hands that we are given with this figure. Starting off, we do have fists or closed hands, however you want to consider it. And then we have some energy sword hands. Then we got some trigger finger hands. And then we got some holding hands. And finally, we have these open expressive hands. And unfortunately, you can't unsheath Carter's knife. It is only a display piece, which I find to be a real big bummer, especially for how much you pay for this figure. And it's weird to think that Jazz Wears' Carter has something over this Carter. And getting into our first weapon, and we have the DMR, and I feel like for the most part, Thousand Toys knocked out its visuals, mostly in the sculpting department. Just like anything in Halo Reach, the DMR has a very busy design, and Thousand Toys was able to portray that really well, from all the tactical rails, the buttons and switches, the charging handle, the flashlight, and the optic and its finer details. Where I do feel that the DMR falls a little flat is its paint job. I feel like Thousand Toys should have made the DMR a tad bit darker. I won't deny the fact that Thousand Toys did give it some color variation amongst its grays, but I feel like the in-game counterpart is much darker than what we got here. And secondly, and this is 100% a nitpick, this doesn't ruin the DMR at all. This is just something that I thought would have been cool to see, but it's not the end of the world. I'm not docking points for it, but I kind of wish that Thousand Toys didn't skip out on the ammo counter. I understand that the DMR's ammo counter is just blue in the numbers, unlike the assault rifle where it's the whole screen. I just feel like that it would have been nice to have a little bit of blue on the rifle to break up all the grays and dark colors that we see on the rifle. And then of course we have the peg on the side of the rifle. Some people don't like this because it kind of interrupts the DMR's design. I personally don't mind it. I like having the peg on the rifle so it doesn't go anywhere and I don't lose it. I know Jazzwares kind of perfected how the peg and peg hole system work, but I think Thousand Toys is a close close second, and I don't think it intrudes on the weapons design that much personally. And if you do want to display the DMR on Carter's back, you can do so. You just have to remove this plate on his back, and then it will reveal the peg hole for the DMR. And there's also a plate on Carter's thigh that you can remove to put sidearms. In this case, we're gonna have to put the DMR because that is the only weapon that he can display on his thigh. The Magnum has not come out yet. That comes out with June and George. And then for our exclusive weapon, we have the Energy Sword. And I want to start off by saying I wasn't expecting the Energy Sword to be Carter's exclusive weapon. I don't think of the Energy Sword when I think of Carter, and I don't think of Carter when I think of the Energy Sword. I had the mindset that each team member's exclusive weapon was going to be something that correlates with the figure. For example, when Noble 6 got the rocket launcher, I thought it made sense because I think of these two parts of the game. And don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining, it just wasn't on my bingo card. And granted, the only other weapon that I can really see Carter with is the assault rifle, and Noble 6 and Cat are getting that as their primaries, and maybe the Magnum, but June and George are also getting those weapons as well. So I guess an Energy Sword is the only viable option. There's a bunch of other weapons in Halo Reach that they could have gone for, but seeing that he does come with Energy Sword hands, you might as well make use of them. Getting into the visuals of the Energy Sword, I think overall, 1000 Toys did a great job. I really like the material that they used for the blades. It really gives it that transparent look, and the white paint really giving us that illusion of the energy flowing through the blades is amazing. The only thing that I find very distracting is that the tips of the blade are cut flat. They probably did this to prevent them from breaking because the material that the blades are made out of aren't like the typical thick bendable plastic that McFarlane or Jazzwares would use. It's a much more thinner, fragile feeling material, but it does make great for great visuals. It's just the tips of the blade are very distracting because the Energy Sword has, sharp ends, and these ones are flat. And even the handle looks great. It's a simple silver and black paint job, but they were able to get down as many details and curves on the handle as possible, and it just looks good. And for those wondering, there is no way to display this weapon on Carter except in his hands. That personally doesn't bother me. I don't really want to deal with the hassle of having to detach the blades and reattaching them and possibly losing them or anything like that. I'm perfectly fine with the only way you're able to display this weapon is in Carter's hands. So here we are at the turntable segment of the video, aka the thoughts and discussion segment of the video. This is where I go over my thoughts and opinions, go over what I like, dislike, pros, cons, strengths, and weaknesses, basically recap what I think about this figure, and then give y'all something to bounce off of. Go down in the comment section below and get a conversation started, and I will most likely reply to y'all's comments because I clearly like talking about this stuff. And starting off with the negative, because I like to get the sour stuff out of the way. And honestly, there's only two things that do come to mind that I would definitely change about this figure. The first one being the knife. I would make that an accessory because we are paying $180 to $200 for this figure, and that is a lot of money. So I feel like making the knife an actual accessory that you can have Carter interact with would definitely add more value to this figure. And the second thing is the tips of the Energy Swords. I would not cut them flat. I would, keep them how they should look. The Energy Sword is such an iconic weapon in Halo, and 1000 Toys semi-neutering that weapon is kind of a bummer. I mean, overall, the weapon does look great. It's just really distracting seeing the tips be really flat. And then there's my nitpicks, such as wanting Carter's walkie and tactical pad screens being painted blue, wanting the ammo counter on the DMR to be painted blue, and then the DMR overall having a darker appearance to match the in-game appearance. And honestly, that's all I really have for the sour stuff regarding Carter. So let's get into the more positive stuff. And unsurprisingly, there's a lot to like about this figure. Starting off with articulation, this is some of the best articulation on a figure for sure. Carter has tons of range, nothing feels too loose or too tight. Everything is fluid, which is what you want in a figure, obviously. And this is just a great looking figure as well. 1000 Toys really did their best at getting down every little detail they could. And the paintwork is also really good. Even if you're not a fan of this cleanish look that 1000 Toys is going for, you have to appreciate appreciate the effort that they giving some of the paint some fading and wear. And as for the accessories, this is the department I'm probably most critical in, but there are things to take away that I do like, such as the sculpt work on the DMR. It looks great. They got down a bunch of details. The DMR is a very busy looking rifle in Halo Reach, and Thousand Toys was sure to get down all those little things. The energy sword, besides the flat, tips at the end, it does look great. I really love the material that they use to give it that transparent look, and the white that they painted on to give us the illusion of energy flowing through the blades. And that's all I really have for the positives and negatives of this figure. I will say I am definitely being more critical with this figure when comparing it to my review for Noble 6, and I think a part of it is because Carter is a more intricate figure. He has a lot more going on, at least with the visuals. Obviously he has some color and he has different pieces of armor and accessories, whereas Noble 6 just had all gray and had the default minimal armor. And that's really all I got left to say about this figure. So yeah, I think we can start wrapping things up. And hopefully with this video I had more energy. I sounded more present than I did in the Noble 6 video. I know I called myself out at the end where I just felt like I wasn't giving my full 100% and I was just sounding like an absolute corpse. I'm still trying to figure out the whole balancing act of doing this with, adulting and just my other things going on in my life. So I am trying my hardest, so hopefully I can sound more alive and attentive with every video that I make. But with that said, I really hope you enjoyed today's video. A like and a subscription would be greatly appreciated. And if you do want to bounce off anything I did say in the video, you are more than welcome to. I will most likely reply because I obviously like talking about this stuff. And don't worry about the bell because we both know that shit is broken. And if you want to see more content like this, there's plenty of it on the channel. I have a handful of Halo reviews already on the channel, and I did review the Thousand Toys exclusive edition Noble 6, so check that out if you are interested. And I got other stuff as well. I cover Star Wars, Alien, Predator, Alien vs Predator, and Warhammer. So if any of that does interest you, please go check it out. And with all that said, please have a great day and stay hydrated. It's important.